at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards.
And good evening to the eclectic herd. I hope
Hello.
everyone is good tonight. We are, as always, it seems, with this program having slight technical difficulties, but we are working hard on making it work. So you're going to have to help us out a little bit and give us a little feedback from the chat. I have today. Mark is adjusting his lighting. So we're having some echoing issues. So I need to know from the chat whether or not you hear the echo when we're talking, and if so, we might have to temporarily try and figure it out. Because I seem to be the only person not suffering from it.
I'm trying
Barb
to figure
says,
out who it might be.
I don't know. I mean, if it's everyone but me, I feel like it must be me, except none of my settings have changed, so I don't know. Barb says, congratulations on fixing the whatever. All right, I am apparently not echoing to the chat. That is excellent. So as we go around and people introduce themselves, if everyone in the chat can just say echo or no echo. So Smoo, if you want to just introduce yourself, a couple lines about your history with games and what you're going to be presenting.
Well, hi, I'm Smooth. I'm happy to be here. I'm usually just playing video games for fun nowadays, but today I want to talk about Settlers of Catan, which is a German board game that was exported to a lot of parts of the world. And yeah, I just want to introduce the game to people because I feel like more people should play it.
So I apparently there was no echo, but you skipped on me a little bit, and I totally missed the name of the game.
Settlers of Catan.
Catan. Yes. I don't think I knew that was a German game. I've already learned something new.
Yep.
Scott, if you want to just give us a couple lines about how you got into gaming and your, well, I guess we probably ought to save yours because yours is going to be a whole spiel. But tell us how you got into gaming, how long you've been gaming, and what made you decide to start designing your own game. Uh-oh, we have no sound.
Scott has muted himself. The
Are
good
we?
old perks of EV Mux. I love it.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do with Mark, Scott, EV Mux every so often mutes someone automatically, so I'm going to take you off the panel and put you back on and see if that works, okay?
The bigotry.
Mark, if you want to go ahead
Sure.
and just...
My name is Mark Stinson. I started gaming when I was 12 with a group of friends. My first night playing, the DM quit in the middle of the game, and either the game had to end or I had to take over. So I took over and just became like a forever DM.
All right. So we have no echo from Mark. Scott, you want to try again and see if we have sound this time? Not
Do you
helping.
have a physical mute button on your headset? Strange.
Somebody in the chat said try refreshing the page, Scott.
That usually works.
In the meantime, we're going to say hello to the chat.
Mhm.
Big Ship beat Rio here today, and he's causing trouble already.
That's a surprise.
Rio, however, was very close behind, and yes, I'm feeling very well. Thank you, Rio. Despite the fact that the cough lingers, I actually feel pretty good. Paul, welcome. I'm not sure I have seen your name in the chat before, so glad to see you here.
New panelist, Shim.
Sorry?
He's our panelist on the Hump Day Shimwag.
Oh. Oh, did we get rated? Oh, I'm so
We did.
excited. I never get rated. That's awesome. As your GM, welcome. Theta. I watched a little bit of your show last night until my internet decided to kick out because we had a snowstorm in April. Weasel says late and smoo.
Always blame the German.
Our super mod is here and fabulous as always.
Eraserhead.
Farv, I think, might have to skip out shortly, but I'm always happy to have him stop in and just say hey. Robert, nice to meet you as well. I don't think I have seen you in chat before either. I always love new faces.
Yeah.
All right. And then we'll have the few people that will wander in. Oh, Mr. Stark is here.
Hey.
So just a quick announcement to start, obviously. For those of you who aren't aware, Jacob Ironsides is a friend of the channel. He and his parents, who are quite elderly, have to relocate. They have a very short timeline to do so. There are some medical issues involved, which requires them to need help moving, so they're going to have to hire help. So they have a GoFundMe to try and assist with some of those. They are over 25% in a week because this community is absolutely amazing. If anybody has not yet, even $5 is really helpful. I have been amazed at the $5 and $10 that how they've just kind of racked up. It's been absolutely beautiful to watch. So please do take a look at that if you haven't had a chance yet. And Davyverse, welcome. I'm wondering how many people are normally here that are gonna not show up because Yarny didn't stream this afternoon and therefore people didn't get the reminder.
You'd be amazed.
Yarny is so good for everybody's stuff.
Yep.
Scott, you are black. You're a black box.
I think it might be Scott who's doing the echo. Because I can still hear it, but not in the stream.
Well, let's try. Scott, as soon as you are on screen, we will put you back on. In the meantime, Smoo, tell us about Settlers. So this is a fairly popular game with board gamers.
Yep.
I know almost everyone I know has played it at least once. I, however, am so into the weird stuff, I have never played this, so I'm actually kind of excited to hear about it.
Do you want me to give you the rundown?
Yes, please.
So, Settlers of Catan is a German board game, as I prefaced before. It is basically, the German name of it is called Die Siedler of Catan, which is it's a pretty accurate translation of it. The first edition of the game came out in 1995, and has since then, re-released about 6 times, and has been published in multiple countries. Basically, the game is You start with a blank island made of hexagonal tiles representing different resources. You have wood, brick, wheat, sheep, and ore. And each player begins with 2 settlements and 2 roads placed on the board. And essentially, what you do is you start trading with other people to expand your land. And the goal is to gather resources, trade with others, and build more settlements, roads, cities, earn points. And the first player that reaches 10 points wins. The average playtime of one session is about 1 to 2 hours, and the skill level required is pretty low. It's like low to moderate, and it's from ages, I want to say, 6 and up. And basically, resources are collected by rolling 2 dice each turn. The number rolled is which tile produces resources for the players whose settlements or cities are next to them. Like, you want to make sure that you have more land than the rest of the players, so you can basically get the upper hand on them and basically gouge them out. And for example, if you roll a 6, you have a settlement next to a forest tile with a 6 on it, you get wood. If you have like a mine next to you, you get ore. Or like a field with sheep, you get more sheep, and you can use those as currency, essentially. And you can trade resources with other people's. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I take it that sheep are a bigger resource than goats in ancient Germany.
Basically, yeah. Sheep are a little more common than goats, I would say. And basically, if you want to build something, settlement, for example, it costs a specific combination of things. Like a road needs wood and brick, or if you want a settlement, it's wood, brick, wheat, and 1 sheep. So you have all 4 resources to use for one settlement. And the cities are basically the upgraded settlements, and you give more resources and are worth more points. So basically, they're assorted in tiers, and the sheep are like middle tier, and the more resources you put into it, the higher the quality gets, and that's how you like get the upper hand on other players. There's also a robber that can block resource production for the people, so you can basically steal cards from other players. So you can use them against them and negotiate things with them. Like, I steal 1 sheep from you, but you give me like 2 bricks and 2 wood for it, for example. And you can earn bonus points by having the longest road or the largest army. But that's like a special set that was like released a couple of years ago. And it's a mix of luck, strategy, and negotiation. It's actually an interesting tool to learn how to
life.
negotiate in real life.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like life. So interestingly, I just discovered that apparently, let's see if I can. There is a 3D magnetic travel version that someone created on Etsy.
Yep, that sounds about right.
There's
There's also
I said that's Etsy for you.
Yep, that's Etsy. And the interesting thing is, depending on how well you play, you could play time even further than 2 hours. There's also been some tournaments that will be played. And you can play up to 6 players with expansions, because you get like expansion packs. But the base player number is like 3 or 4. So depending on how many players you have, the more interesting it gets. The less you have, the more challenging it gets. The more you have, it's more challenging, the more players you add. And yeah, it's been very interesting to play.
Do they have expansions for it now, or?
They have. There's like an extension that you can get is the 5 to 6K extension, and it gives you like more patches. The map gets bigger. And it's like 30 or 40 bucks extra on top of the base game. It's like more fields, resources, and a bigger map.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fascinating. And it shows you, it tells you more about the people you play with, how good they are with certain things, the skills they have.
Mm-hmm.
If you're good at negotiation, or if you are a bit more of a strategist, or if you're just lucky.
I was going to say, it seems like it would be a great teaching tool for like teenagers or, to like teach them negotiation skills. I
Let me
have
just
been.
rejoin real quick because Theta says I'm echoing.
Honestly, technology is going to make our lives easier any day now. The echo stopped when the image was removed, so apparently it wasn't him, it was... Now I hear an echo.
And now I hear you echoing. Can you hear me?
Echoing terribly.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Is it better now?
So your echo ended when I got rid of the picture, but now we're all echoing.
Shmew wasn't echoing for me.
Weird.
This is fascinating. This has never happened before.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
I can hear
Yeah,
Scott.
we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm not hearing echoing anymore.
Well, that's because it's contagious and I caught it.
Yeah, you're echoing now, and Scott and Smooth sound better.
Theta says that everyone is echoing as far as the chat's concerned.
Maybe turn off the off-stage feed.
Where is that?
Bottom left.
Bottom left.
Okay, I just turned mine off.
Maybe that helps.
I can still hear you echoing. And I can hear myself.
What?
It's not as bad, though.
What do I turn off?
Bottom left, there's a listen off-stage feeds.
Because it feels like someone's talking through a megaphone or something.
How do I sound now?
Echoey.
Echoey.
Okay, one at a time. Let's go around the circuit and mute. Mark, why don't we start with you?
You want?
Okay. Everybody say something. I can still
Test.
hear myself.
Echo test.
Chat, help us out. Scott stopped echoing after he did that. Okay.
Interesting.
Mark, why don't you come back, Smoo, if you would mute?
Okay.
Dadman Walking got here just in time for the tech check. Still echoing. Chat, are you guys getting an echo? Scott isn't echoing, Smoo and Goat are. Echo on Smoo. Wait, echo on Smoo not being muted? Yeah, we're still echoing. Okay. Smoo, you come back. Scott, if you would mute, please. And check, check, check. I am not echoing now.
Me neither.
At least not to myself.
You are not echoing now.
It's Scott. It's Scott all along, huh?
Poor Scott.
Okay.
Okay, so Scott, what we're going to do is, if you can stay muted unless you have a question, we're going to finish up the other things, and then we're all going to mute and let you just do your thing. Because if we're not on, it shouldn't be as big. Good? We will make this work. We will bludgeon this into submission.
We bludgeon it. Hey.
Well, that's kind of what you have to do with technology. You know, if the car
Yeah,
won't start
gotta
on a
love it.
cold morning, if the car won't start on a cold morning, you just kick it.
Yep, it's basically what's happening. So yeah, there's expansions for Settlers of Catan. Like I said, they expand the player base by like 3 extra players. But I would actually recommend if you're like a beginning player to just start with the base game. And basically, what I was bringing up is you have to reach 10 victory points to win the game, and you gain points by building a settlement. And for each settlement you own, you get a point. If you have a city, you get 2 points. So essentially, this you ideally want to aim to build more cities than the opposing players, which is kind of difficult, especially if they play like 4D chess with you in a way and just trying to mess with you. And you can also get like army cards, so you can like raid the enemy cities to just take them over, essentially. And ideally, you want to defend your cities from being taken over and just defend everything you've got. Sometimes you outplay the other players, and sometimes you don't. There's even like tournament plays of the game, which are like crazy competitive and can escalate to a point where the matches end in like less than 30 minutes if the players know what they're doing. And it's pretty fascinating how this game has evolved, because there's now a Steam game called Dorfromantik, which is a German word for basically town romantic or town romance, and it's based off of this game. And it has become such a hit on for a lot of indie fans, because they just crave like a good old board game, and that's why the game gained so much popularity in the end. And it's like I think $20 or $30 at the moment, the base game, and it's pretty fun. And this game has been awarded multiple awards from like press and other outlets, and it's actually pretty amazing how pretty niche game has garnered such a broad audience, like all over the world. It was even released in China, in the parts of Eastern Europe, Mexico, Korea. I think Korea was fairly recent, actually, and even in Japan. It's actually interesting because you don't really see that many board games or card games in general to capture a global audience like it does. Like the only thing that I can think of, for example, is like Uno or something or like Phase 5 or whatever it was called. That's one of the very few games where I would say that they garnered such an international audience that it's known worldwide. If you have like people going to like board game conventions and you mention Settlers of Catan, it's like, yeah, I know this game. And I'm like, how? Because it still blows my tiny little brain that such a small game has captured such a global audience. And yeah, it's just interesting to see that board games.
I had a question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
I wondered if you had ever played Carcassonne and how
Yes.
it compares. Like, if someone really loved the game Carcassonne, would they like Settlers of Catan?
I'm pretty well. I think they bleed into each other a little bit. I would say Carcassonne is a bit more complex than Catan, but definitely a bit more fun to play, because I'll say this: Settlers of Catan is a very like bland game. If you not in a bad way, but it's pretty straightforward. You get what you see what you get, and that's it. With Carcassonne, you have a bit more strategy involved. There's a more strategic element into it, and it is pretty similar in a vein. But the only difference really is that you have like square tiles instead of hexagonal, and the board is a lot bigger that you use for it.
So,
Funnily enough, that game is also made in Germany, believe it or not.
So Catan is negotiation 101 and the other one is negotiation 102. Is that the?
Well, it's negotiation 2.0, I would say. in a way.
It's a
Catan involves
big
more
jump.
trading. It's a big nation, yeah. It's based also Carcassonne is based on an actual French village, believe it or not. And Catan is a fictional like universe.
Mhm.
And
It's
yeah, go ahead.
Is it like a board game version of Civilization? That's kind of how it's always existed in my head.
It it kind of is, yeah. I would say it is, yeah. And the interesting thing is the board for Catan itself is not very big. It's like maybe it's. I need to count the tiles real quick. 3, 7, 12, 16. It's 19 tiles that you play on, and with the more people you play, the more of a risk you have getting all the tiles that you want, and the less plays you have, the more chances you get to actually get more resources and everything else. And yeah, like I said, there was an expansion that was released. It was called Seafarers of Catan. That was released in '97, so like 2 years after the first edition was published. And it is the main feature of this expansion is to add the addition of ships, goldfields, and pirates.
I mean, who doesn't love pirates?
I love pirates. That's why I always wanted to play that, but I never had the means to actually get it because every single time I wanted to buy it, it was sold out. That's how popular it was.
Wow.
And that was like before the internet and everything. So I had to go to my local library to actually like borrow the board to play it. That's the way I got introduced to it.
Blaze pointed out that not only is it a smaller map, but that there are a lot less ways to win Catan than there is Civilization.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's a tiny version.
Mm-hmm.
I have been surprised at how many people in the chat have not actually played it. It makes me feel slightly less out of touch.
It's very yeah. I know it's a very obscure choice for a game, but you know when you pick my brain on games, I was like, what kind of games did I play back in the day? The Catan was the first one that popped into my head, so I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. And yeah, you do get rogue points. That's correct. And the ships basically serve as the concept of ships was, or the ships are the trade-off for roads in that expansion because of course you travel via water, so that's only a given at this point. And the ships cost lumber and wool, oddly enough, to create. Although I never remember ships being created with wool, but apparently they are in this universe. And yeah, it's just another creative way to play it. I think some people, if you want to give it a try, like I said, try Dwarf Romantic. I'll probably should put that in the chat so you guys know what it's spelled like.
So
and
it's
that's the
interesting
name
with
of the game in Steam.
the ships and wool thing. One of the reasons I was kind of joking about goats is that goats were regularly carried on ships for their, they'd get a pregnant doe and bring her on a ship, and then they'd have, meat and milk, and they'd drop a bunch of goats off on an island somewhere so that on the way back they'd have a food source. And so they were not really made from wool necessarily, but they there were a lot of trips that were built on goats. That word has
fascinating.
I mean, I kind of wish you could use proper nouns in Scrabble because, man, that word would be great.
Yep.
Anything else from the chat? Any questions? Anything else we should know, Smoo?
The interesting thing about this one, the Seafarers expansion, is that you have different scenarios that you can play, and you get different tiles for each scenario. There's one called Heading to New Shores, which is basically based on the original scenario of Catan. And that game is basically with smaller islands, which award a special victory point to each player for their first settlements on them. And the scenario is meant for players new to Seafarers with elements of Seafarers incorporated into the more familiar main board. So you have like ships being added to the main game, and then you can play it in a different way called Four Islands, which is the when new mechanics are introduced to Seafarers, which is brought to the forefront. And the scenarios in the scenario, the map is split into 4 islands, roughly equal size and resource distribution for each of them. So it's pretty similar in the size of like the base map that you have. And well, if you play the 6-player version, which is part of the expansion, you can get up to 6 islands. So each player can kind of has an island each, where you can also travel over and just steal stuff from other players, and just build on top of that. And yeah, Catan also has a website, and it breaks down the history of the game pretty well too. Is there an army expansion? There's an expansion called Cities and Knights. And I think that's pretty much what you're looking for here. And it's like I said, I haven't played Knights, Cities and Knights myself, but it includes knights that must be used to defend Catan from invading barbarians, and improvements that can be bought for cities that give benefits to players, like free commodities, paper, coin, and cloth can be produced in those. In addition to the original resources, a 5 to 6 player extension of For Cities and Knights was released the same time in 2000. The original expansion of that one was in 1998. And there, ironically, because we were just mentioning barbarians, there was also a Traders and Barbarians pack that was released 8 years later. So I think that's pretty much the last big expansion that came out for it, which has a number of small scenarios, but it's also like there's also a 2-player variant for it. So unlike all the other expansions, it was made in consideration of like 3 to 4 players, but this one was made for like smaller groups of people, so you can just have a one-on-one setup in this case.
All I can think of is like somebody had the Knights expansion and kept losing repeatedly, and they're like, "Screw it, I want to play the Barbarians instead."
Yeah, I think that's basically what happened, and it is kind of funny to me that this has gotten to a point where they were like, oh, let's just add the barbarians, because knights are just weak in comparison. So yeah, it's. And actually, the Catan line was rebranded about 10 years ago. So for the 20th anniversary, and is just now going for the original name Settlers.
Really? I didn't
Yep.
even know that was the original name. I've always heard of it as I wonder if this is going to be like the Twitter thing. Like,
Well,
they rebranded and everyone's still going to call it Settlers of Catan.
Actually, I got it wrong. So the original name was Settlers, so Siedler, the German word for it, and they just call it Catan now, because that's the most recognizable name, actually. But yeah, it's just like simplifying or streamlining it.
This is when Kentucky Fried Chicken just said, "Forget it. We're going to stop pretending it's chicken and just call it KFC."
Right?
Okay. Anything else from As Your GM says, prior to Catan, I think most board games use dice for either roll and move or to resolve combat. Pretty far on the two sides of complexity.
Well, there's 2 dice being used, or die being used for like resources and everything, but apart from that, you don't really use it. There was like an historical scenario pack introduced as well, which was basically reenacting the building of the pyramids of Egypt, or the expansion for Alexander the Great's empire using Catan game mechanics, which is also a very interesting thing to do. And they also made one based on the Great Wall of China and the Trojan War, which was released 24 years ago. There's even a book that you can buy. It's called the book Playbook, which contained the rules and pieces for 15 new scenarios and many variants. So you can see like this whole thing got bigger and bigger as time went on.
Unlike Monopoly, which is recognizable and became absolutely huge, but everyone hates.
It is absolutely insane, like how crazy some things can spin off. It's almost, I mean, I don't want to use this analogy often, but it's gotten to a point like the Marvel Cinematic Universe where everything's just like springboarding off of each other and just becomes this giant blob essentially, and that's what's happening here.
Are you
And
familiar with the game Munchkins?
Munchkins.
It is a
So
card game. It takes the cake for the whole spinning off thing. It started out as just a funny basic card game, and then they just started like licensing tons of like
I've seen it, but I never played it. Interestingly
the
enough,
the original version is very funny. It's just the fact that they just started licensing everything. Um, and it became kind of a joke, really.
I think it's funny. I just look at the expansions. There's like a Bards and Wizards pack, witches, rats. What the heck?
As your GM says, there is a Star Trek Catan.
That's also a one that actually forgot existed. And there's a Game of Thrones one as well called Brotherhood of the Watch. As Brothers of the Night Watch, players harvest resources from the gift to build settlements and keeps, while contributing to the defense of the wall. The game was released in 2017 in multiple languages, even Hebrew, and Brazilian Portuguese. So you can.
It is popular.
It is popular.
Everybody wants to play.
And
Okay.
there's also a spin-off. That's the last spin-off that I can think of, which was Dawn of Humankind, which is a spin-off featuring the first humans. And that was published in 2022, where players move their tribe to explore new continents and establish camps. Pretty wild.
Sweet. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Everyone is now going to mute and cross their fingers. And Scott, you're going to have to start by telling me how to pronounce the name of your game.
So it's Trinamic. Am I echoing?
Not bad.
Not bad, still there. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. So, hey, I want to apologize for the echoing. This is my first interview. I want to thank you so much for inviting me. To answer your original question, I actually started playing D&D with the pink box set when I was it was 8 or so. Lots of other games, RPGs as well. So, but to move on, Trinamic is a modular character creation role-playing system that was also designed to really stylize role play of the different character classes and use a system that allowed an OSR style, very simple character sheet with just traits on it to be able to sit down and play with other people that wanted something more complex, like looking at, say, Pathfinder and saying, oh my gosh, there's all these skills, all these different things that can be happening to sit together. And then the third thing was to really set up a system that will allow people to play in 2 to 4. You know, when somebody doesn't show up for a session, you can jump into somebody's personal pursuits to power and go into either that's building castles or mystical sites of power, building up your cathedral and your followers, your fleets and ship. And so there's also hideouts and gangs as well, and then tribal forts and civilizations or building a city. So that's the general gist. I wanted to open up as I talk, if anybody would like to put something in the comments that they'd like to know about this system, then I will start talking about that directly. As well as if anyone talking there would like to, or any of the other presenters would like to ask questions as well, just jump in. So this started from 8 years ago from my own homebrew when I realized how limiting player creativity was in other systems. And so what I designed is and looked at was, what are the mechanics that are really at play if we take away everything else? And D&D originally had the 4, which was the fighter, the cleric, the thief, and the wizard. Then they introduced the scion, which was the mentalist. And then eventually all this other stuff they created, there were 2 that were really specific. One being the druid, not because it's changing shape. It was because of nature spells. because now you had a different set of spells. And the other that they really created was the barbarian. So now you have an adrenaline based character. But the reality is, if you play that, you're really not a barbaric mage. You're two face. So sometimes you're a barbarian and sometimes you're a mage. So
Uh-huh.
I looked at those and I set up my 7 base classes to feed, an adrenaline based, a mentalist, nature spells, cleric spells, wizard spells, a fighter with heavy armor and high HP, or a movement oriented character that was also good with weapons. And so
Uh-huh.
you take one of the 7 base classes, and then you choose 2 of more than 53 other secondary classes, which one could be now the beast, which is to change shape. And now you have these combinations you can throw together, and their ability sets within each class. You have like 10 different choices to choose from, and they do feed and work with other classes. And so if you have the barbarian with the adrenaline base, and you say, "Oh, I'm going to be fierce and have this adrenaline," when you take another class, it actually have an ability that's role play stylized and mechanically built that features the class it's in, plus uses the ferocity of a barbarian style character. So you really are role playing this out mechanically, and as well, you take all that from the very beginning. So you start with 3 classes. You can all focus, or you can very much diversify. You can end up taking abilities when you want them. So you don't have to wait for like level 6. You're like, yes, I want to get this ability at level 6, and at level 4, the group disbands and it's no longer a campaign.
Mhm.
So uh, those are the basics right off the bat. Is there any questions anybody has that the put in chat?
So I have a question actually.
Yes.
Did you create all these classes just to break the mold of like the cliche classes?
Yeah, absolutely. It really stemmed from my last one. I wanted to create this. I had to kind of go sword mage, right? I wanted to create a tribal medicine man that could cast some wizard spells, but would wear no armor and charge into battle. And so this modular system allowed for combining these all together, and then rebuilding them back up so that we could have that. Does that answer your
It
question?
sounds highly customizable.
Oh, it's incredible. So if we talk just the classes, if you choose 1 of 7 and 2 of more than 53, you're over 9,000 combinations.
Damn.
So now the other benefit to that is when we're playing, we don't have to get into somebody else trying to play your character, because unless you told them exactly how you're built, they have no idea what your classes are. Well, after a little bit of play, they might get some idea of, but they won't necessarily know the abilities either. And so there's a lot of potential there. And I created new classes that weren't done before. Like, well, what would be really cool to do? And I thought, like, Conan the Barbarian, the movie, right? The first one, the original. You're like, man, there's a snake cultist, right? He just turned an arrow into a snake and like you know, poison her at distance, right? I'm like, that's really cool. So I created the dogmatic class, which is a representation of whatever god you choose. So I've got like 14 gods right now with all these abilities that they have each to their own. And
Mhm.
one is the order of the snake. And so they can turn an arrow into a snake and then fire it. Or, like, not everybody gets attack of opportunities. In my system, I tried to, like, how do we speed up game flow? And like certain things don't make sense. Like an 80-year-old wizard who's studied books all lives, never went out and played kick the can or kickball, can just turn around and then strike somebody immediately as attack of opportunity. Well, it slows down the game. It's not so pertinent. And quite honestly, in my system, if they were a battlecaster, they could take that and even use a spell. But with
That's
the
pretty cool.
dogmatic class, now you have a cleric that can do a mamba strike and turn their arm into a mamba, which has role play effect. And then they make an attack of opportunity, right? And so now you're like, oh, playing the cleric can be cool now. Cool
Hmm.
melee. Somebody has a question. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
How accessible is this to an absolute noob?
So this is the cool thing. My first demo, I didn't actually put this in there, and I should have, because I tried to focus on the character building principle. But there's a free game demo and a one shot that's available for download on the main page of my website. And so it is so easy because it's a character driven rule sheet where your adventure master, which I use a term adventure because it's not a game, it's a challenge between each other to make the game better. Um, but you can sit down and you can only deal with traits. And so you'll have 7 different traits that you would track. And then some extras being your senses and how you look, how your voice sounds, and then what's your poise of your mannerisms, right? So overall, you have those 10 things just to look at. And so as you learn more, you can end up adding more to it if you want. So it's actually very simple for a sheet to look at. To learn the mechanics. There, you don't have to memorize the rules. You don't have to worry about other people telling you and presenting with other rules while you play. So that makes it actually much, much better. So with each person playing their own style and sitting at the same table, this is kind of how it works. And this will kind of explain your question about advanced players too, right? So we're gonna have the 4 people here. So we got Goat, the Mark, and Smoo. And the Goat, she wants to play really simple, right? So we're going along in the woods, and I'm like, oh, there's a trimmer, and everybody's up on the trees. So I'm like, so this trimmer, I'm calling for an agility roll, and so the Goat knows I got 10 things to look at, and like, oh, I roll this, and let's just assume all their stats are 0. So she makes her roll, and then Mark's like, well, wait a second, I took acrobatics. I'm like, oh, okay. So now as a adventure master, I'm probably going to challenge him a little more because he's a role player and be like, well, so how are you going to use acrobatics? He's like, oh, well, I'm used to swinging on things. So as a branch drops down and sways around, I'm going to grab it and swing from branch to branch. I'm like, oh, that's cool, right? So you can use your acrobatics. And his acrobatics, let's say, is +5. And I'm a D100, so +5 is very reasonable. And then Smoo is like, well, you know what? I made mine with acrobatics, but I specialized in balance. So I'd like to use balance because I'm being on a tree branch and balancing it. And so where Mark had +5, Smoo is now +3 for acrobatics, but because he took balance, he gets +10 in it. And then another player could even just specialize in balance only. And so if they're going to balance on rooftops, they're going to balance on a bridge, they're +15. So what happens is we have each person that can niche into something if they want, or play very simplistic. And all of them can sit at the same table because the reality is all these mechanics, they were all built of something originally anyways. They just added more complexity and said, everybody's got to track this. And there's no real reason to if you don't care. Does that help you with being clueless and new? Okay. Does that
What's
bring
the
more
entry
questions?
level?
What's that?
What's the entry level for the game? Is it more for like intermediate players, or is it for beginners also?
No. I see it as for all of them. I've taken people that are brand new because it has that simplicity design. So once I start talking with somebody, and in this guide, I have a guide set, not a rule set. Um, you know, because you can customize and you can customize individually. It doesn't matter that other people are playing a little bit different style in that regard as the depth goes. Once I call for that basic function,
Mhm.
it's the player's job. I'm not. I shouldn't memorize their character sheets. As a matter of fact, I have so many spells, so many abilities. It's just not even possible for me to do that, right? Aside from
Mhm.
being a disabled vet, and this was another reason. Like, why should I have to deal with all these rules to memorize? And so it's the player's job to come back at me and say, "Hey, I built this way, and this is why it should matter." Because that's cool. That's the challenge for me. Is like, hey, um, can I interact with them in such a way to be like draw more out of them, or to let them just play basic? When we talk about abilities, right, we can get into like, is it too complex for somebody? And so the thing with having abilities versus not having abilities is that it can give people that don't know what to do something to look at and go, I know I can do this. And then eventually, if in my design and my guide, because I use a lot of descriptive nouns and adjectives for abilities and classes, people can build upon that to say, well, I have shield bash +2 when, after I make a weapon strike. But you know what? Can I just use my full movement and run across and as I'm going, just bash somebody with the shield? And like, yeah, that's cool, and that's your concept is right. So there's this freedom to kind of just create as you go and not get bound down by like what's the rule, um, to have to look up or even by my own sheet. Did that help?
So, so the rule of cool is important.
Yeah, absolutely. But the rule of cool is not just important, but the rule of cool is also limited in a sense, right? Because I joked about the wizard before. Um, if the wizard's going to do like a rule of cool that's melee, like incredible melee, but like, well, how did you come about that, right? Me as an adventure master, I like to tailor my game where I'm like, that, but how would you get there? I'm like, I'll let you do it, but you know what? You won't be as cool if the fighter had told me that. But rule of cool, absolutely in play. I'm actually writing up some rules in the future, probably out 5 to 6 months, of how to do narrative only. In my own combats, I've already discussed how to just do combat narratively, with just maybe using a bit initiative or not using initiative, use auto hit, right? Maybe just roll 2 hit, do auto damage, right? Because these all feed a different function when we go through gameplay. And to address Smooth's question earlier about how did I get going on some of this, um, it just bothered me to go through the same type of combat all the time, the same type of role play. When we get into a social situation, like, all right, who's going to talk to this person? Well, the person with the highest charisma. And you know what? That means they're the best looking, they got the best voice, and no matter what they do in person, like they could sell anything, right? And it's fun to look at it and say, hey, wait a second, I rolled really bad on charisma. I'll just use D20. And maybe I'm an 8 charisma, but in my system, you could drop 3 points of the 8, say you're 5, and then all of a sudden you're 11. And that might be a lot, but you know what? If you rolled 12 and you drop 6 points, and then you're an 18 for your charisma, hey, your voice is 18. So you know what? If you're talking through a door, like you could probably convince them to open it up, right? So there's these ways to create that, and give it more dynamics, than what we traditionally play.
You have another question? Is the game system similar to Chaosium's BRPG?
I only heard part of that. I think I know you referenced Chaosium, and I think you're just asking if it's similar to it. I actually looked up Chaosium, and it's not. It is not like that. I could see where people make, when I just talk about it, they make a couple associations with that. Um, but it does play differently than that. Is there any questions from the chat? If you want me to talk, I can talk more about other things that I made different in this system, made it unique, whether that's spells, weapons, and armor that are modularized.
Um, I wanted to show the website.
Okay. Yeah, and so that website, I use templates to put it together, and then I'm working on expanding it, making it better. So just so everyone knows, you can also sign up as a free member, and there's other free game content to download. Like I did Order of the Bee, which kind of talks about the nature of what a religious background, and secular group would be. But 10% of that, well, I'm sorry, the 90% of that would end up going for any role playing game that you're in. But the other 10% would ping back to my system of why the dogmatic class, right? So, what's the bee stinger that you could transform into? But I only give you one of them versus the 10 or more. But with that, there's also that free download. There's backstory, like I wrote a 6-7 page backstory of a character I played before, put that up for free download. That way people get a nice idea of how some of the stuff is that I write. Because when I did the game demo, it was only focused on trying to expose people to more the mechanical gameplay and not so much like narrative or flavor text and content. Oh my gosh, is the echo still there? I have to wonder if I broke my mic in some way that it's doing that.
I think it makes the rest of us echo. All right, I'm going to mute you for a second. I think that takes away the echo for me. So I do want to say, take a look at his website. There are free downloads. I downloaded them the other day. I have yet to finish reading all of them, but hey, free game stuff. Take advantage. Scott, thank you very much. I'm so sorry that you're having so many technical issues. We'll try very hard to sort the problem out off stage sometime, and maybe we can have you back when things are getting ready to release this fall. Okay, let's. All right. Mark, you are up.
Hello. Um, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. Um, and I'll just kind of share briefly what my thoughts were when I was creating the dark tech RPG. When I was a kid, we played Traveler and Star Frontiers. When we got older, we played Alternity, which was a Wizards of the Coast product or a TSR product initially. I can't remember. Um, and I wanted to develop a sci-fi game. We had just gotten done playing Stars Without Number, and I don't know. I wanted something darker and a little more uh, unrealistic, or a little bit beyond what we kind of picture when we watch a sci-fi movie or see a sci-fi show on Netflix or something. Um, and so I just started going down this road of character flexibility and how could I make characters the most flexible objects in the game, to where a player going into a particular mission or adventure or quest would be able to choose his his character features, his class features, and how would he be able to choose his skills and kind of set himself up for success in the game. And I just came upon this idea of, what if the characters played cyborg robots? What if they were on this dark world that was war torn and devastated by battle? And, you know, humans had the soldier on the ground and then mechanized forces. And then that evolved to drone forces where humans are controlling machines remotely. And then it would go to AI machines that did battle, but they would realize that the aspect of human consciousness was missing. So they would put human brains into these cyborg machines. And for that to make sense in the world, I wanted it to be a religion. So there's a religion called the Doctrine of Ascension that says the final evolution of man is this taking of the human brain and putting it in these war martyrs, these war machines. What that allowed me to do was define the characters differently. They, instead of character classes, we pick a war martyr chassis or a body build. There are cyborgs that are built more for offensive melee combat, frames that are built more for stealth, frames that are built more for hacking, more of a tank frame. And then within those chassis, as you go up in level, you can pick modules. Um, and modules are the equivalent of a class feature in a typical 5e game. And then for feats, there would be upgrades, which would give you kind of a spectacular thing you could do that other characters couldn't do. And then there would be system packs that would be special tools that your character could access. And finally, there'd be routines, which would be the skills that were programmed into you. And all of these things, depending on what sort of reconfiguration station you have access to, whether it's a corporate built one that's very advanced and very capable, or whether it's some portable reconfiguration station, you could change your modules, you could change your routines, your upgrades, you could change out your system packs. And so the characters within the realm of their particular War Martyr chassis can pick very specific features for their character based on the mission they think they're going on. So for the world of Arceus, I created 9 corporate powers or corpo governments that run the world. They fuel all of the war. They fuel the investment in war martyrs, and essentially, those corpo governments then influence what the war martyrs look like. And there's a very specific chapter on kind of the stylization of your war martyr or what it looks like. And the end result is a very dark world, a very combat, uh, mission based game, but you can customize the style of the game based on the corporation you choose to be created by. And the GM has so many options for adventure because each of these corporations have a different tone and approach to how they deal with problems and war martyrs. Anyway, that's the pitch. And so I've written that game. It's about 340 pages. Probably a third of it is GM resources for helping them write a game, helping them write a mission that will be effective for the characters. And we're play testing it right now. But it is I am the one and only employee of Lingo City Games, so I work as hard as I can at it. But if it wasn't fun, I don't think I could do it because, the role playing landscape out there is so full of options that thinking that, man, I'm going to have the next big game is like me taking a taxi to LA and thinking I'm going to be in a movie. It just has to be a labor of love, basically.
I mean, it sounds fascinating. I've seen some of your, like, the little videos that you've made for promoting it. And I'm not sure how long those take you to make, but they're really cool to watch.
That's cool. Did you want to maybe cue one up just so people can see kind of what it looks like?
Yeah, I was going to ask which one you were. Do you want that new tactical warfare and survival
Why don't
video?
you do there's a short called Glory of the Mind that would not take us through a 2-minute video. It's like a 40-second video, and it kind of shows the whole purpose of the game.
Aha, found it. Whoop.
Very cool.
All right, now I can't expand this one like I could regular videos, so we're gonna have to do this. I think the sound on this also might cause an echo, so probably everybody wants to mute while I do this.
Okay, I will mute. Okay. So yeah, it just has a dark industrial feel. I built it on basically a really streamlined 5e system so that my players could sit down and play it the first night and know exactly what we were up to and exactly what we were doing as far as the structure of the game. The terms are kind of different, but the structure is still there and allows them to just pick it up and go with it. And right now I'm writing an introductory adventure and creating some sample characters, which will be free to play, free to download. and then we're looking at releasing the game more widely, both digital and print, later in the year.
Very cool. So, how long did it take you to work on all of this up until now?
My daughter says I'm ADHD, which I don't know if that's true, but I do have like a hyper focus issue where it took me like 4 months to write it. But that was like 8 to 10 hours a day, uh, in addition to working, my normal job. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all I did over the winter was just plug away at this game.
That's pretty cool. Well, that's dedication for sure, and the basic concept of it sounds very fun too. And you said it's on a simplified, more simplified version of 5e, right? Or based upon it. That's what I understood, right?
Yeah, yeah. In general, there's essentially a class system, and then there are levels, and they go up to 20. And at certain levels, you receive certain module options. Like at fourth level, you have 9 module options, and each of those modules is like a class feature. I got rid of subclasses because I just didn't think it made realistic sense for a robot or a cyborg to have, um, these very pigeonholed subclass features. I just thought that they would be
Mhm.
much more customizable. So at fourth level, you have 9 module choices, and then uh, at the next level, you get 9 more choices, and then 14th level, you get 9 more choices. And as you go up in level, you can always choose modules from a lower level. So by the time you get to 14th level, you have the choice of, I can't do the math, like 36 modules
Mhm.
that you could outfit if you were at the right reconfiguration station, you know?
That's pretty cool.
Um, so people really enjoyed the short there, and we do have time. Do you mind if I play that 2 minute bit, or
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
rather
If
not?
they want to watch it, I would love to watch it. No, no, I'd love it.
All right,
I'm gonna mute.
chat. If you get sick of it, you can just tell me to stop. Um,
The Dark Tech RPG is built for players who crave intense, immersive sci-fi storytelling, where every mission is a brutal test of tactics, survival, and resourcefulness. If you thrive in high-stakes combat and cinematic battlefields where war machines dominate and corporations pull the strings, then this is your game. If you love the gritty realism of military sci-fi, the relentless tension of war, and the thrill of tactical decision-making, Dark Tech puts you in the cockpit of a sentient war machine built for battle. Every firefight is a lethal contest of positioning and adaptability, where cover, deployment, and strategic planning mean the difference between victory and becoming salvage. Dark Tech blends biomechanical horror with cutting-edge military technology. You'll hack war machines, scavenge forbidden corporate tech, and navigate a world where war martyrs are both the weapons and relics of an eternal conflict. Whether you revel in the deep customization of cybernetic warfare or the moral dilemmas of sentient AI caught in corporate servitude, this game delivers a setting where survival is never guaranteed. If you thrive in ruthless combat, deep role-playing, and a world where war, power, and control shape everything, then Dark Tech is the perfect game for you. In the world of Arceus, everything is controlled, everything is owned, and no one is free. But you are more than a machine. You are the future of war. Glory to the Ascended. Glory to the Doctrine. Glory to the eternal war.
I sort of feel like that this is for people that find Warhammer Fantasy roleplay too cheerful.
Right?
Yeah, one of the, I mean, along those lines, my friend was like, "Who wants to play a brain in a machine?" And there's like a 30-page chapter on defining your identity before you were put in the machine. Like, who were you? What sort of life did you lead? What are your triggers? What are your wants? What are your morals? Um, and then when your brain was wiped and put in the machine, there's residual echoes of that past that the DM or the GM has guidelines for when they basically drop these residual echoes on you based on your past. So part of a War Martyr's journey could be discovering who they were. Part of a War Martyr's journey could be rising up through the corporate ranks and embracing their kind of divine status as a war martyr. Or a war martyr might go rogue and rebel against the corporations that made him, uh, struggling to kind of find who he is in a world where he's cast out of his corporate master's house. Um, but yeah, one of my friends was like, "It reminds me of Warhammer," and I'm like, "Well, I think it reminds you of Warhammer because it's dark. Like I don't know that it has a lot in common with it except uh, how dark the storylines could be that you tell.
Well, I was sort of thinking, I've never been my husband is a big Warhammer person. I always liked the original Battletech. And I was like, oh, this is like the mech suits, except that you don't get to keep your body. You just get.
It's pretty accurate.
someone in someone in the chat put RoboCop in space, and I might have to put that on the rulebook cover. That is awesome. I didn't. I never even compared it to RoboCop till I just read that that chat. That's brilliant.
I wonder if that would get you sued, though.
No, no,
Copyright.
no, no. Yeah, yeah. Hyperbole. I'm joking.
You'd be amazed how many people are actually like, yeah, I'm just going to use this thing. They won't care because I'm too small. I'm like,
You'd be very wrong to think that.
people will sue over everything these days.
Yeah, that's very true because they're very protective over their IPs, unfortunately. But well, I say unfortunately, but they have their rights to do that. But ideally, you wouldn't want that,
Yeah.
so people can just use it as a template.
Well, there's a joke about the fact that, Disney made all their early money off stories that were in the public domain and then proceeded to try and do everything in their power to keep their stuff out of the public domain.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, they didn't fight quite hard for
I think you
Steamboat
could
Willie,
see-
though. In all fairness.
I think you could see from the video that you can play like a variety of kind of styles of War Martyr. There's like very organic metal technology with flowing energy, flowing wires. There's the old clunky hinged robot style. There's kind of a 1950s chrome and nice finishes and fins kind of style, and all of that comes from what corporation made you initially.
I was going to ask, you said that there's a whole thing about who you were before you were put into the machine. Does your background affect what type of machine you end up in?
That would be a character choice. The very first, there's a checklist of things you do when you make a character, and the very first thing you do is identify who you were and what you believed in, and kind of what residual memories might be triggered by your past. Once you're in a war martyr, and so that's the first thing you determine. And I think a character could decide to choose a character chassis that really matched up with what he was in his former life. If he was some kind of law enforcement, he might choose to be a vanguard chassis, a melee warrior chassis, or a striker chassis, which is a ranged combat chassis, kind of focused on that. Or you could go contrary to type and kind of pick a Warmart or chassis that doesn't match at all with your background, adding that conflict to the character as you discern who you were over time. If you're, I mean, there's going to be people that play the game who do not care who they were. They just want to go do badass robot stuff and kick the crap out of stuff and go on missions and high explosions and fire off a mini nuclear round into a group of aberrant mutant creatures. And then there's going to be other players who are wanting to be more story oriented and are begging the GM for information on their background, and they're researching their background, and they're trying to hack databases that might reveal who they were in the past. So it can be played really either way and to the same good effect, just to be a different style game.
Somebody said, can you share a checklist? I don't know if you have one available or.
I can share the checklist for making a character, but I'll share it over on the Discord after the
Okay.
after
Yeah,
the
that's
chat.
good.
I'm not on my computer. I'm on my son's computer, so I'll share it over there if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, that sounds great. Which actually brings us to some of the announcements. I think we're probably going to end up ending a little early today, which is amazing. The only thing about the tech issues is that it kept us from becoming sidelined with umpteen million conversations that didn't actually have anything to do with what we were talking about. So I think we may actually end up. Smoo, you had to leave at 7:30 my time, whatever the heck it is your time. Was that correct?
Yes.
You get about 10 minutes.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you want to plug your stuff now so that you're not rushing?
Yeah, sounds good to me. So you can usually find me on my main channel, Smooth the DJ, which is the channel that I usually play games on, upload music to, and also host the Hump Day Chinwag, which is the weekly podcast that I do with Tomby and Abe and a few other people, which is the weekly show that we do just to decompress from the week and laugh at the nonsense that's going on in the world, whether it's pop culture, politics, or anything else. Other than that, I have a gaming channel called Gaming with Smooth, which is basically my archive channel for like previous streams or edited versions of stuff, or even pre-recorded things that I didn't want to put on the main channel because I felt like it was not appropriate for it. And yeah, you can usually find me on Twitter at DJ Smooth, which is my main Twitter account. And usually I post my announcements there or on the community tab in YouTube. Apart from that, yeah, I'm just free to hop on many channels. I do moderation work for a lot of people besides doing my own stuff. And yeah, it's always fun to like broaden my horizons and actually hearing about games that I wasn't even aware of and just being put on the radar for me, because I'm always like looking for new excuses to buy new board games or immerse myself in like different fantasy worlds and all that stuff. So yeah, just come check out my stuff, and yeah, always make sure to follow Goat, of course, because she's putting all these awesome games on the map for us. And I'm actually grateful that this show exists, because there were a lot of things where I'm like, I haven't even heard of this before. I might actually check it out. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, that's what we're trying for really hard, is all the stuff that gets overlooked otherwise. I may possibly be starting an online Shadow Dark one shot, mostly for people in the UK for the time zone. So
Nice. Can't wait.
Okay, Scott, you want to tell us about what you're up to? Do you have any other socials we need to know about? We've got your website. Eraserhead will throw that back up again here. Other events you're going to be at?
Yeah, so for social media, I basically am coming from nothing as far as that goes. You can go on my website. You can find links to YouTube, which I do have a number of videos that are pretty short. Just tell you real quick about some different components about the game compared to other systems that are out there. Right now, the easiest way to get in touch with me is either through being a member on my website, email me some other way. Eventually, I'll have a Discord going. Well, but you can also see events and locations that I'm going to be at. I'm going to like 8 different conventions up through the summer in the Midwest. And I'm open to meeting people if they're anywhere along the way on the road. Just get a small group together and we can work out a day and time when possible. And as well, eventually I'd like to do what you're doing, not for in general, but just to do demos over the streaming with people, and just get a group together. So look out for me in the future. And sorry about the problems with the echo.
Life happens. I did want to mention, so one of my announcements, I might as well just throw this out now. One of the announcements is that there is now an Eclectic Herd Discord. And one of the channels on it is going to be for people who need playtesters. So if you find that you need playtesters before you get your own Discord set up, please feel free to hop in and borrow that room. Mark, where are you going to be? What are you up to? Where do we find you?
So, lingocitygames.com, and all the links to all the socials are on there. I won't go over all the socials. They're all on that website, lingocitygames.com. And if you follow anything involving my game, I would love it to be the YouTube. I'm going to be posting game tips. I've already done a video with some game tips and just thoughts on different kinds of gaming. And then updates on the game will also be on the YouTube and that channel. So if you follow anything, follow the YouTube. That would be awesome. I'll try to stay active on the GOAT Discord and just keep in touch there also. And man, I just really appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
It was great to have you, and I apologize for technical difficulties, and if I hadn't been running 10 minutes late backstage, possibly we would have gotten this sorted out ahead of time. So you really should blame the host in this case.
We made it.
Or blame
No,
the
we
baby
made
goat.
it. We made it.
Or blame the baby goat that refused to take its bottle properly.
Or
Which is
blame
why
the previous stream and it almost ran too long.
Yeah, I was getting a little bit worried because I know darn well that if that stream isn't done, I can't go live at all. So was Tom B feeling chatty?
No, he was actually very conscious of time this time because he was like, "We need to finish on time." And I was like, "Well, 2 minutes." I was thinking to myself, like, 2 minutes is a little bit too short, but sure. We somehow made it work, though.
We did. That's the important part.
Yep.
Adapt and overcome. This is my motto in life. The farming existence. Adapt and overcome. Adam says, blame a mod. I only have one mod, so I only have one mod, so so yes, so I have some channel announcements. First and foremost, I do now have a Discord. I really wanted more and more. I am moving towards independent creators and small games. My original intention was to have one YouTuber, one creator or publisher, and then one gamer on every show. Mainly because I figured, well, there's no way there's enough creators out there to keep this going very long if I have too many creators. And then I started looking and discovered that in fact there are so many independent creators out there, and it's awesome. So more and more, I mean, I'm gonna throw in the occasional, recognizable name because people like recognizable names. But more and more, I'm going to be moving towards independent creators. I also have gotten in touch with a few industry artists and writers that have written for larger games and for some reason are still willing to come onto this show. um, and I am also looking at potentially bringing in people who do map making for fantasy games, people that own gaming stores, because your friendly local gaming store is also kind of a dying thing and they could also use some love. Um, so that's going to be kind of the direction I'm going. And I wanted a place where those creators could kind of stay in touch with everyone, because people have, come up with questions after the fact, and they're like, "Yeah, now I can't find that link. How do I get in touch with this person?" So I have invited everyone who was on the show previously. Going forward, I will invite everyone who's on the show as they come on. There are lots of channels for general discussion about different types of role playing games. I will add in board games. There is also, if you're interested in learning how to do something, if you want to learn how to make maps, there's like a I want to be a creator. If you want to learn how to paint minis, if you want to learn how to do anything, get on there and say, "Hey, I want to learn how to do such and such," and hopefully someone will be like, "Oh, I can teach you how to do that." So I'm hoping people will make connections. That's my goal.
Mhm.
Um, I'll have to add in some more stuff for. It seems like every Discord ever like has to have a spot where people post pictures of their cats. Uh,
The cat corner.
so
It's the internet. What do you expect? The internet was made for cat videos.
so over time as they become necessary. Yeah, there you go. I have two of those. The smaller one is 3 times that big.
Dang.
The monster puppy last time I knew was 130 pounds, and that was 4 months ago. And he is actually a puppy. He's still growing.
That's
Um,
crazy.
so yeah, I would like to make a place for people to make connections. We're still kind of messing around as to what actually goes where, so it doesn't become too cluttered. I would absolutely love suggestions from anybody who hasn't had a chance to kind of roam around a little bit yet. And if there are channels you think I'm missing, if you think there are channels that kind of repeat themselves and I don't need, because I am a toss possum and I would cheerfully get rid of anything extraneous that's there. The other announcements are number one, like I said, I am going to be moving more towards indie games. So if you know anyone, if you know artists, if you know musicians, if you know small creators, I wanna push small creators. Please send them my way. However, I'm going to become more focused in general. I am going to be doing away with some of my other live stream shows and focusing more on just this. I've decided that it is really not nice of me for my husband to work 12 hours a day and then come home and I'm already on the computer until after he goes to bed, 4 days a week. So I am going to be stepping away from co-hosting in other news with Sammy. And when Carnival is done at the end of this month, there will be no resurgence of shows you've never seen. I will be keeping this. I will start pre-recording the indie author interviews. And I will do occasional guest spots still, but probably no more than one a week. So, yes, Eraserhead. This means you can watch all of season 2 in one shot and you don't have to wait. I don't know what you're complaining about. I've had many complaints from the people that are on that panel about the fact that I make them wait and actually watch one episode a week like it was intended to be watched.
I mean, on the upside, you have more content to watch and you can binge it in one go. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
kind of a win, you know?
Exactly. And the other thing is that I really am looking forward to. I'm doing a video on the history of zombie movies, and I'm going to get really in depth. And I literally just, this show takes so much time that combined with all the others, I just wasn't getting the time I needed to work on that. And I am also going to be, so I have always primarily been a freelance writer, but magazines are struggling some these days. And so I am going to be putting more of my efforts towards that. And the fact I'm running out of topics to write about. I'm going to be putting more effort into my editing, in part because supporting indie creators is really important to me. And my rates, because I'm terrible at marketing myself, my rates tend to be lower than most people's, which makes them a little more affordable to people who want to do role playing games or books or the things that, they wouldn't feel like they could do otherwise. I am currently on top of 3 article deadlines. I am also currently editing for the Real Life Fake Wizard. For anyone who's familiar with him, he has a game out that he's been working on called Pretend, that he's been working on for 2 years. And we are going to try and have it edited so that he can actually have a physical published hard copy out by June. Fingers crossed.
Cool.
So then after that, I'm definitely going to be putting more emphasis into my editing. So there we go. There's all the channel stuff. Questions from anyone in the chat about any of that? I am going to be on Sammy's show, and I am going to be finishing Carnival, so nothing is really going to change until the end of this month. And indie author interviews will probably... Pardon me for a moment. Sorry, I had a coughing fit there for a second.
Bless you.
Indie author interviews, I have several people that were booked for the next couple of months. They will probably stay on schedule just because they made time out of their schedule. And then, like I said, after that, I'll start pre-recording, which actually will open things up more because there were a lot of international people interested that just couldn't make the time zone. So I want to thank everyone for being a wonderful audience. I know tonight's show was a little bit rough, and I really, really appreciate everyone who stumbled through it. I want to thank my panel for hanging in there. It would have been, Scott, especially you, would have been so easy to just say to heck with it and just walk away. I really appreciate you sticking with it. And like I said, at some point, maybe you and I can figure out what happened. And when your game is due this fall, correct? It's coming out this fall.
That was the plan. It kind of depends, what happens with the social media following. I actually do have books right now that are like 90% complete. But I wanted to make sure that there was really a body of something to be able to give to people to go and do a pre-launch with board game shops. And then also right after that, simultaneously roll in crowdfunding on top of that. And so if I have to, I'll push back to spring. But worst case is I'll just have a demo book hardback that somebody could buy.
Okay. Let's stay. do
Look
that
at
again.
that.
Do that again. That's a nice looking book.
You're muted, by the way, Scott.
Thanks. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was muted again. So that's the player's handbook. It's about 100 pages right now. No real flavor text in it. I'll add some of that in later, except for the classes. And then this is the Strongholds, Armies and Battles book, which can integrate role play for that function, but actually can do hybrid to go tactical as well and play a light tactical version. So there really is stuff that's already there. I just want to be more of it together to present.
Scott, didn't you have a shield? I muted you again so I could talk.
So I did turn this into a shield. It was made by a gal in Poland. What I'll do is on Discord, or I don't know where I can put it, someplace, or give it to you to put out. And this gal would love to do more work, but it was amazing. The orb in the middle actually lights up blue, and she got details in there on this foam shield, and it's super light and great to wear. But I did not even think to have it out for this. So there you go. First times for everything, right?
That's a shame. I was looking forward to seeing that. But anyway, so when you feel like you're ready to fully release, maybe we can give this another shot and make it slightly less awkward for you. So again, thank you very much for my panel. Smoo, go get some sleep. You look like you need it.
I've been up for I don't even know. I don't even know how many hours it is at this point.
Yeah,
Far too long.
I haven't had that problem, but I'm still dealing with the getting up every 4 hours to feed babies. So yeah, it's like having actual kids. So thank you very much. Thank you to chat. Thank you to the panel. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night. And happy headbutting.
Meet me at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to gab with you. We'll talk about immersion, adventure heavy lows, characters and story, warlocks and barbarians and bards, comedy or horror. We got inspiration if you're in need of it, or just need to hang out somewhere cozy. We're the guys for you, we've got time for you. Come and join the crew, here's what to do. Meet us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards. Us at the tavern, have a drink or two. I'm the eclectic goat, and I'm here to play with you. We'll discuss the theory and the mechanics, how we ask for crits, Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards.